The time has come to make a toile for my wedding dress. Now, I'm sure that most of the people who follow me on this channel are sewists and know what a toile is, but in case you don't know what a toile is, it is defined by the Oxford Dictionary as an early version of a finished garment made up in cheap material so that the design can be tested and perfected. That is exactly what we're gonna be doing today. If you're curious about the silhouette of my dress, the fabric that I will be using for the actual dress, anything related to my actual wedding dress, I have a video all about how I designed it, and I'm very happy with my design, but that doesn't mean I'm actually any closer to completing it. To make toiles, I use pretty much the basic sewing supplies, but it's very essential that you have something to make them out of. I use wrapping paper or tissue paper, and then I'm also using this vintage pattern to base my new patterns off. This is actually one of my favorite dresses I have ever sewn. I'll include some photos because I'm too lazy to try it on right now, but it is a couple inches too big for me, and this was created basically exactly from that pattern. So I think I'm gonna take in the pattern by about 2 inches. I guess I ought to try it on to see how much I need to take it in. And then I will of course be playing around with the seams. This is also only lined with one small piece of cotton. So it's not very structured, and I want my wedding dress to be a lot more substantial than this, but the point of this was just to be a cute little summer dress. Oh, actually it fits really well. I actually don't think it needs to be taken in a whole lot. I kind of want my wedding dress to be a little bit loose just so I'm not like uncomfortable. The back on this, it's cute, but it's way too low. So we'll change that as well. Guys, I'm gonna be so honest. I've done a lot of research on pattern drafting. I've watched YouTube videos and read through the Reader's Digest Guide for Sewing, the original edit or original version, but I'm way more of an eyeball it kind of person. I think it just works better for me. Maybe it's not the most technical or scientific way to go about this, but in general, that's what I prefer to do. I don't love pattern drafting in the first place, but I think that it's less frustrating for me to just do a couple of toiles on a project versus trying to get everything measured out perfectly. So my first step in this project was getting out the pattern that I had used for that sundress and just looking at what I was working with and then tracing it out onto a piece of wrapping paper. After I traced it all out, I decided where I would put my seams based on measurements I had taken from the actual dress, and then just copied those seams out onto the pattern that I had traced, making sure to include seam allowance. That's very important. And then I began making toile number 1 of many. I just used an old cotton bed sheet for this because I didn't want to waste any good fabric, and I didn't even want to buy muslin, to be honest with you. I'm an idiot, and I was using the bodice back piece to do the front, so that didn't fit, obviously. That's why we do toiles. Take number 2. I wish I had something more helpful to share about this process, and maybe in the future I will, but for now it just takes me a lot of tries, and sometimes I make mistakes on silly things that I shouldn't be making mistakes on, like placements of seams that just don't make sense, etc. You get the gist. But I actually was using the front piece for this toile for the front piece, so that's a plus. Does that make sense? Sorry, this is kind of confusing. Hey, my first toile is complete. I know you're very anxious to see it. It's not perfect, but it's not terrible. I actually really like it. I think I want to put a seam in right here, kind of just below my natural waist, and do a little panel right here, and maybe actually put another layer of interfacing in that so that it just holds a little bit more structure than the rest of the bodice. The top portion of it, I'm unsure about. I don't even think that I need cap sleeves. Like, I think that that's pretty cute. And then this is gonna obviously be a little bit lower whenever I put a lining in and attach those along that seam. I also think that the top portion could be a little bit larger because I put in a few little like kind of pleats, but I didn't really measure them. I just gathered it at specific points to match up with these seams right here. And I think that I could do it bigger and actually pleat that just a little bit more. And like I said, this is gonna go a little bit lower. But since it's gaping in the back just a little bit, I think I'm gonna take it in on the side seams because I like where these are placed. I have a seam on the front right under my bust, and I am very particular about keeping that, but on the back I wanted to have a matching seam, so I have a top panel and a back panel, but the back is still a little bit high for my taste. It's still a pretty high back. It doesn't look like it, but it is. And so I don't know if I really want that seam or if I could just kind of like turn this seam into the dart that's on the bottom panel. Yeah, I think the back needs a little bit of work. And I also could just take an inch out of this seam, half an inch on each side of these panels on the back, because I'm not particular about where those are. Nobody's really going to be looking at the back of it anyway. But those are the major changes. Need to do all of this on my new pattern. This is my vibe when I'm sewing like 99% of the time. Kind of chaotic, but you gotta do what you gotta do. So here's the thing. The bottom panel situation I don't like. I don't think there's a way to do the bottom panel without having seams where these seams are, and I think that that makes it look really blocky and weird. So I think it would actually just look better to have that be a part of the middle panel. Honestly, I think that the side seam could be moved forward an inch because right now it's leaning way to the back actually. So I'm just gonna take an inch only out of these front side panels. Once I take an inch out, it's gonna fit a lot snugger. And then I don't mind this situation up here. Keep in mind this is like a very thin cotton bed sheet. It's not gonna look nice. It will look nice, or it will at least look better when it's made out of a nicer fabric. So, wait, we gotta talk about armholes. Riveting stuff over here. I think that the armhole is a little bit tight, but at the same time too loose on my body. So I'm just gonna fix that by taking about an inch out of it and then taking an inch in right here so that it will fit a little bit closer to that. I do want it to be a little loose on the arms, but I think it could be altered just a little bit. I had high hopes for this pattern that it would be the one. I joined back together my middle and bottom sections of the panels and then fiddled around with the armhole situation, and I thought it would be good, but I was a little bit disappointed when I made it. Sometimes you think things are going to work out and they don't, and sometimes that happens in reverse, and it's just really hard to tell sometimes. After yet another toile that wasn't the one, I decided to move on to the skirt for a little bit. I wanted to do a skirt that was a circle skirt, but the waist radius of the skirt would be twice the size of the waist of the bodice. So it was about 74 inches for me. So all I need is 4 of these and then we're good. I feel like that's a decent sized skirt based on what I can tell from this piece of tissue paper. Looks pretty good. Skirt is so large. I got 1/2 done and I have just enough fabric for the other half. In hindsight, I have no idea why I was cutting this out of my bedsheet because it wasn't going to look good. I had no intention of using this in the final project. So overall, I just don't really know why I did this. Just because it's not going to have the drape that a skirt that has a million layers of tulle underneath it would have. So I think that this is really a problem that needs to be figured out next week when I make my actual dress and not with a toile. So yeah, I don't know why I did this, but here's some footage of me on the floor cutting out fabric. I made another fish t-shirt. This has nothing to do with wedding sewing. Let me show you. You may have noticed I put a lot of fish heads on my designs because I love fish, and I put all of my dresses with fish heads onto this shirt. I think it's pretty cool. I made it yesterday, so yeah. You guys tell I was not really feeling this process, to be honest with you. But we're back on schedule. Toile number 5. I thought that this was going to be a good one, but it wasn't. I used a tablecloth this time instead of cotton because I thought that might give it a little bit more shape and help me like it more. And I just went back to my pattern and did some tweaks, but it didn't work out. I didn't even bother sewing the back onto this because I already can tell it just doesn't look good. I'm so confused because I do dresses like this and I thought this would be such a simple pattern. But I'm just gonna scrap the pattern that I made and go back to the vintage one that I was using and start over. For some reason, it's just not working. It's shapeless, it needs darts on the side, but this like under the bust seam is screwing it up, and this is all my fault. This is my fault for not being great at knowing the details of pattern drafting. It's very important never to backstitch at the end points of your darts. You need to keep the threads long and then just tie a little double knot. I learned that from somebody online, but it really does make a difference. I never backstitch at the points. So this video is literally so all over the place. I'm so sorry, but I can sense that this is gonna be cute, and I actually really like this color green, and I'm going to a wedding a couple weeks before my wedding and I needed to make a dress for it. So now what if I just make a dress out of this green? This video is just like a topsy-turvy, I don't know where it's going either. This video kind of represents how I feel whenever I'm sewing. Sometimes I'll start a project and I'm like, oh, I actually like this. Let me just follow through with it. And sometimes things do not work out. But imagine I make a dress out of this with like a big gathered full skirt, and then I add top stitching details in a white creamy thread. Wouldn't that be cute with some little cream heels? I think I might do it. This is so not what I need to be doing with my time right now, but that was kind of on my radar to make a dress for that wedding anyway. So, you know, I'm being very careful with my construction of this toile. With the other ones, I kind of didn't really care, but I'm actually gonna finish the seams on this one and iron everything as I go instead of just at the end, which is what you're supposed to do, is iron as you go. So I think it's gonna be good, actually. Look at that, perfectly in line. Love when that happens. And here we have it, the toile. I think this is it. One of the only times that I wish I did own a dress form was when I'm trying to see exactly how something fits on the waist like area, because I can't really pin it super accurately myself. I kind of have it safety pinned in the back, so it's just hard to tell, you know, like, is it even lining up correctly? I think that it's snuggest on the hips, and I do have a skirt on right now that's pretty thick. Actually, these colors together are kind of fire. I would wear this if this was a wearable shirt and not a toile. It's hard to tell exactly what's going on, but I think it's pretty good. It's a lot more snug up here, which is great. I think that that's just going to be a lot more flattering on me, and I wouldn't like any gaping, etc. There are a few inches of ease in the waist right now, and I might take those out. It's hard to tell what it looks like. I might look really terrible in the camera right now, but I don't know. If it looks okay, I might just leave those in there, just, you know, for comfort and because I'm gonna be slouching, probably dancing. Yeah, I think it's pretty good. I think I've talked enough about toiles for today. I'm really sorry if this video has been more boring and less organized than usual. I think that this is just what making a really big dress of this scale looks like, and you got to get all these steps out of the way before you can do the final thing. If you liked this video, don't forget to like and subscribe. That would help me out a lot. You can find more of me on TikTok, Pinterest, and Instagram at Jane's Dresses. All of that will be linked below. And I hope you have a lovely day. Tell me what you're working on in the comments because I want to know.